Hey guys, I'm Jordan and you're watching Fixbook. After watching this video, your car problems stand about as much a chance as this laptop does against my hot lead. Now, make sure you stay tuned so you can see what happened to the laptop at the end of this video. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below. So today I'm going to be showing you how to replace your drive belts on your 06 Kia Rio5. Okay guys, and for today's project, I used an extended 3/8 ratchet, regular 3/8 ratchet, a 12, 14, and 10mm socket. That funny looking thing is a 10mm I used, but a 3/8 drive 10mm socket worked just fine. So again, 14, 12, and 10mm sockets, what you're going to need. Then I got these two extensions right here, one about that size, a long one like that. Then I used a 21mm socket right there as well. You'll need a breaker bar, or you can use a crossbar to remove the lug nuts, and a 12mm combination wrench. Also, and of course the jack over there to lift up the car. And again, the jack and the 21mm, you're going to need that if you're removing your AC pump belt, and also it may be helpful for your alternator belt as well, but if you're just doing your alternator power steering pump, you may not need that jack right there. So just keep that in mind. So with all that said, we'll go ahead and begin today's project. Okay guys, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this engine cover off, and we got 4 10mm bolts sitting in there, so I'm just going to take my 10mm, I'll loosen up all the fasteners, and then we're just going to pick right up on this engine cover here and we'll move it off to the side. And there we go, I got all my fasteners loosened up there, so you'll just be able to pick up on your engine cover, and we'll move it over here off to the side. Okay guys, now the first thing we're going to be tackling today is the alternator belt, and in order to do that, what we're going to do is you're going to find your alternator sitting right there, and as you can see there we go, you've got a bolt sitting right there at the end of the tip of my finger, and we've also got a bolt sitting right there. And what this is it's a tensioning system, and basically you're going to throw a 12mm socket on the end of that guy right there, and what that does is it loosens up this little piece here, and it's going to allow us to put a 12mm on the end of that adjuster right there, and then we can adjust it back or forward, tighter or looser, and that's how we're going to be able to loosen up the belt in order to remove the alternator belt. And here I'll come over here and just kind of show you the belt, kind of give you an idea of what we're working with here. So you can see right there's your alternator, there's your alternator belt. So we're gonna figure it out here in just a second, left or right, to loosen the belt, and then we'll loosen up here. I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll go ahead and remove that alternator belt. Okay guys, and this is how I've managed to hook up to our first bolt here, our 12mm. I've got them sitting right there on the piece there that you want to be on, and I just took a long extension 3/8 ratchet and was able to hook them up there. From there, you're just going to go lefty-loosey, and we're going to loosen them up there so we can adjust your belt. Okay guys, and the next thing you want to do is we're going to need to get down in there and get a 12mm combination wrench. And actually what I'm going to do instead of doing that, and I'll show you what it looks like just in case the only belt you're changing is your alternator belt, you're just going to reach down in there and get on there like so. That's what it's going to look like. But if you're like me and you're changing all 3 belts, then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and loosen up our power steering pump, and we'll kind of push them our way so I can get my nice automatic ratchet down in there, and I'll be able to adjust the alternator belt faster. So once I get that hooked up, I'll show you what it looks like when you've got your ratchet in such a way that you'll be able to adjust your alternator belt. Okay guys, so here we are at your power steering pump, and I'm going to show you how to change this belt as well, but like I said, we're going to loosen them up and push them out of the way. And what you're going to do is you'll take your 12mm combination wrench, you're going to turn them lefty-loosey to get them loosened up there, and then we'll get to our other fastener there, loosen him up, so like I said, we'll be able to push them out of the way, and we'll be able to remove that power steering pump belt as well. And here we are at this top fastener. Just gonna spin them lefty-loosey, and once we get them loosened up, we'll be able to see, I'll be able to just push our power steering pump, and you can see just kind of jumped right there. And now I can kind of push them out of the way. So now we'll get back to our alternator belt. I'll just hold this guy out of the way, and there's also an electrical connector connected to your blower motor or AC blower motor there. So we're gonna disconnect that connector, and that'll also assist in releasing the tension from your alternator. Okay guys, and there we are. You can see I've got my ratchet down in there, and if we zoom in, we're about as zoomed in as we can get, you can see I can get my ratchet there, and it's going to be left is going to loosen your tensioner there. But we've also, I believe we have 2 fasteners, we may have more, but there's going to be fasteners holding in your alternator, and what you're going to have to do is just loosen the 2 or more fasteners, and I believe that top one there was one of them, and then there's just one sitting down on the bottom. We'll find out here in just a moment. But you're going to need to make sure all of the alternator fasteners are loosened, and then we'll be able to adjust that alternator belt, and we'll be able to go ahead and remove the belt and put your new one on. Okay guys, so the next thing I'm going to show you, because I don't know if I'll be able to get a good shot on the actual bolt head, but I'm going to show you the other end of the alternator fastener. So we're going to look down here. You can see your alternator, and right there, I'm going to put my finger on it if I can, right there, it's a square looking fastener there, and what that is basically there's a knob here, so once you get it tightened in and this piece is flush, it's gonna enable the bolt on the other side or the nut on the other side to tighten up without this thing spinning. So that's the one side of it. So what you're gonna want to do is go on the opposite end of the alternator and loosen up that nut, and once you do that, then and you got your top fastener loosened up, then you're gonna be able to get this belt off. And I'm gonna try, I can't make any promises, but I'll try and see if I can't show you how to get to that nut on the other side. Okay guys, here we are. We're underneath the car. I'm coming over here and we've spotted our adversary. Oh, we got this, I believe it's a 12mm nut, and I'm gonna try and get him for you there. Let's see. And that's him right there, right by your oil filter. It's a, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's a 12mm nut. I'll confirm that. And that's it. So you just gotta loosen that guy up, and when you get him back on, you gotta tighten him back up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and show you what it looks like when we get our alternator belt off. Okay guys, so I've got both my fasteners loosened up, and now you can see you should be able to grab a hold of them, and I should be able to push them out of our way, and hopefully, let's see. There you go. You should be able to see you can rock it back and forth once you've loosened up those 2 fasteners, the top one and the bottom one I showed you there. So basically you're going to kind of push it forward like that, and then you'll be able to take your alternator belt off, and that's pretty much all there is to getting that belt off. And then of course the alternator belt's going to be in front of your other 2 belts, so if you want to take those off, you're also going to have to remove this belt as well. Okay guys, so here we are. That's our alternator belt. I'm at a bit of a different angle now. So there you go. It's just hooked up to those 3 pulleys, so you can just pull them off right like that. And then earlier I showed you how to loosen up that power steering pump. So you just kind of move it. And again, if this is just a power steering video, which it probably won't, because like I said, the alternator's in your way there. But you're just gonna push this guy up right here, and you're gonna pull your belt off like so. And I'm trying to do this one-handed here, so shouldn't be a problem. Alright, and after I managed to get started there a little bit, you just make sure you push and kind of pull both hands there, then it'll come right off. So, and it's just hanging there around that big pulley we got there, so we'll just kind of get him out of the way, and then we'll go ahead and work on getting the belts back on. Oh, and one other thing guys I want to make a note of is, I know it's a little tough getting this power steering pump belt off, and basically if your alternator is pushed all the way so you can get your alternator belt off, you're going to have to push that back in order to get this power steering pump belt off and free. So just remember that as well. Also, one thing I wanted to add in there too is the dust shield is going to be blocking that view I gave you when I showed you the nut of the alternator, the nut setting on the stud there. So you've got, let's see here, 3 or 4 12mm bolts you got to take out there. So just zip those off and you can bring your dust shield down, and then you'll be able to access that point where I showed you the alternator stud nut that you need to loosen up in order to get the alternator belt off. Okay guys, now the next fun thing we have to do here is we're going to remove that AC belt, and this is your AC pump, and that's the belt right there. And basically what we've got to do here is we've got a pulley and adjuster, and you're going to have to come over here and remove your wheel. You have 4 21mm lug nuts. You have a little hubcap thing that should be sitting inside your wheel. You'll take a flathead screwdriver, pop and wedge. You'll work your way around and you'll wedge that little center cup out of your way so you can get your 21mm lug nuts off. And then we'll come and we'll be looking down in your wheel well here, and you should have a piece blocking you right here. It's going to be two 12mm bolts sitting up in there, and up in there you'll see your little bolt hanging right there. Once you undo your two fasteners, you'll be able to pull that plastic cover out of the way, and then you'll be looking nice and pretty, and you'll be sitting right here looking at what I'm looking at. And basically what we're looking at is your AC pump pulley, which is going to be sitting right there. That's the guy in charge of tensioning the belt. And basically how it's going to work here is we're going to loosen that guy, and I'll show you more further along the way here in just a second. Okay, so I've got my belt loosened up, and I'm going to show you how I went about doing that. Basically, we got that pulley like I was describing. You're going to loosen them up, and this is the setup I got. I got the long extension with the 14mm socket, and then we've got a 12mm nut standing right. You'll see my hand go there. My finger is now touching the 12mm adjuster bolt. Now you can look at this pulley on your car, and you can take your finger and put it right where mine's at, and I assure you, you will find a 12mm bolt. Now once I loosen this up, I was able to just tighten, or not tighten, but loosen that 12mm bolt there with my fingers. So when we go to tighten it back up, I'm sure I'll have to use some kind of tool. I'll probably use a combination wrench, and we'll be able to tighten that back up and get the tension back on our belt there. So that's how we're going to go about loosening the belt. And just to show you I did it here, we're going to go ahead and pull this guy off. Well, I may actually have to loosen that 12mm bolt a little bit more. I'm just going to pull, and we can see there I've just about got them off. Sorry, I don't have four hands to adjust the camera there as well. So you can see it's just about off there, hopefully. There we go. You can definitely see it need to be changed. So just go ahead and loosen that adjuster, that 12mm bolt for the adjuster bolt, and then go ahead and take that belt off, and then I'll show you putting everything back together. Alright guys, and here I am. I'm back up at the top, and the way I went about doing that was I first pushed the belt off of that little pulley thing, and then I was able to come up top and just kind of pull them off the top, and then I'll go back down to the bottom to get the belt the rest of the way off there. So you just saw me take that AC pump belt off. Okay guys, so I've got my new AC belt here, and we can see the old one, it's all cracked. If yours looks like that, you're going to want to replace it as well. And we've got a new one. They're always just going to be kind of sitting like that right there. So to tell if it's the right belt, what you're going to want to do is take them both side by side and just kind of pull about as hard as you can, and then they should be about the same size. So just make sure all your belts are right belts going back on there. You're going to have some trouble because the parts stores do mess up. They'll give you the wrong belt, so just make sure you got the right belt. And now I'll show you putting everything back together. Okay guys, and now I'll just briefly describe where each belt goes back. First we'll start with our AC belt, our AC pump belt, and it's gonna be that one right there. And basically, if you ever wonder where the belt is going, I mean, when you all have multiple belts, it's always pretty easy to figure it out. You just want to make note before you take everything apart. But the pulley, it's sitting like perpendicular or parallel. That's the word I'm looking for. Parallel with, if it, you know, you look at this pulley and go straight across, that's where your belt's going to be sitting. So basically, for the AC pump belt, we've got 3 pulleys to go on. We've got that one. We've got your crank pulley, which is sitting down there, and we've got that little adjuster pulley, which is the smooth one, and it's not going to be going around on the rib side, but the back side of the belt is going to be touching that smooth one. So that's how you put your AC pump belt back on. And then your power steering one, it's pretty simple. And make sure to put your power steering one back on before your alternator belt. Remember, your alternator belt's always going to go on last because it's blocking everything. So to put this power steering pump belt on, what you do is you get your power steering pump right here, and you can see it goes in right there, and there's no ribs on the pulleys there. So just make sure you get your belt back on there. Again, I'm going to show putting all these belts back on, the best way to do it. And then lastly, your alternator belt, it's ribbed there, and it's got 3 things to go around, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it does. It's got the crank pulley, which is sitting right back there. It's the pulley that's clear right now, and then it's got this other pulley sitting right here, and then of course your alternator pulley, that's where your belt's going to sit there. So just get them around those 3 pulleys, and there's, I mean, they just make it so you can't mess up. It just goes in a big circle. You just put it over those things there. So now if I can, I'll try and show you putting the belts back on if there's anything difficult or anything I feel you need to see. Alright guys, and the best way I found to get your AC pump pulley belt on is to go ahead and start at the bottom. Start by getting your belt pushed back on that back the back of the crank pulley, and then get it kind of pointed upwards, and then come up here. You'll be able to reach down and grab and pull over right there on the AC pulley there. And then once you've got it pulled up around the AC pump, you'll come back down here and we'll see that it's just sitting right there, and we'll lift up on the belt and push it over our adjuster guy right like that. So we'll get him on there. We'll make sure to righty tighty that 12mm bolt which is sitting back here, and once we've got it just about as tight as we want, we'll go ahead and tighten up this nut right here, the 14mm nut. Alright, now I've got the AC pump belt installed, and basically guys, what you can do is you can reach on down there with your hand, and about to the middle point of that belt, go ahead and push down. And before you take it off, hopefully you're watching this video through before you do your project, take note of about how much it flexes when you push down, and then when you go back, when you go to put it back together, install your new belt, just make sure it's kind of comparable. You don't want too tight, too loose. And if you were having some noise, or I mean you could have even had a loose belt, and you're just going to want to tighten it a little bit more accordingly. So now we'll go ahead and we'll do the power steering pump belt, and basically I'm gonna put it up here on the power steering pump, and I'll work them down around this pulley, and I'll get them on. Actually, the best thing to do is going to be get him on that bottom pulley first, and then pull him up around here, and then we'll go ahead and get him tightened up. Okay guys, now the next thing we're going to do here is, you can see I've got my power steering pump belt on there, and you can see you can rock it back and forth there. What you're going to want to do is go ahead and kind of pull back on them, and while you're pulling, go ahead and tighten up your fastener right there. It's a 12mm. Go ahead and tighten it down while you're holding your power steering pump towards you, and that'll ensure a tight belt right there. And then once you've got that tightened, of course, you're going to want to tighten your other fastener over here, and just make sure it's not too tight, because sometimes it can change it if you got this one tight and you tighten that one up. So just make sure it's not too tight, make sure it flexes just a little bit once you've got it all hooked up. Alright, and that's what it's going to look like when you get that belt back on. And you can see here, I'm just going to push it down, and you see how it just deflects just a little bit. That's about what you want there. It's pretty tight, but not too tight. So now we'll go ahead and put our alternator belt back on. Okay guys, now when it comes to putting that alternator belt back on, basically just go ahead and set him down in there. You can see I've got him sitting on top of that big pulley there, and then he goes down along to the crank pulley, and make sure you can see I don't have mine hooked up to the crank pulley, but you're just going to reach your hand down in there and scoot them over that pulley, and then you'll just be able to come up over here and reach around and put them on your alternator pulley there. So once you've got all that good to go, then we'll run our tensioner, our special tensioner there. We'll run that bolt right, and once we get them where we want them, we'll tighten our tensioner tightener bolt, which I believe is sitting at the end of my finger right there, and that's the adjuster bolt I'm talking about. Then once you feel like you've got them nice and tightened up where you want it, then we've got those two fasteners, which that adjuster bolt tightener is going to be your top one, and then like I showed you earlier, and what you should have done by now, is that lower alternator fastener. You got the stud coming through and the nut on the end, so you'll just tighten that nut up. So that's pretty much how you're going to put your alternator belt back on.
Thanks for watching guys, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all my new videos, which publish Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Mountain time, 11 a.m. Central time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, and I will see you then.